Buying in Davie, Florida right now is risky, and it's not the reason you think. In the last 12 months, 14 homes came to market under one of Davie's guard-gated acre estate areas. 9 sold, 2 gave up, and every single one of that sold went for less than the seller originally asked. Together, they handed back $1.6 million. Same town, same buyers, same rates. The market didn't do that. 3 levels today. What the country is doing, what Broward County is actually doing, and what's happening here in Davie. And we'll break down what actually happened where 2 homes that both failed for the first time tell you everything you need to know about the market. So let's start with what you've been reading. Nationally, the headlines are true. Fully 70% of housing markets in the country now favor buyers or are trending in that direction. That's up from 52% last year. That's a real shift, and if you're shopping in today's market, congratulations, you actually have leverage again. And rates? For Freddie Mac, the average 30-year rate was around 6.54% in July. So an out-of-state buyer typically thinks that when they're looking to relocate, that they hold all the cards. They also think that sellers are stuck and nothing is moving, and then I can lowball anything. Even Florida as a whole looks like it supports that narrative. Statewide, single-family home sales were up 5.1% in July, and the statewide median came in at 425,000. Steady, but nothing dramatic. Nationally, it's flatter still. For the National Association of Realtors, existing home sales up 0.7%, with the median sales price $434,100. So which is it? So which is it? Is it a buyer's market or is it a seller's market? Here's the answer nobody puts in a headline. It depends entirely on how close you zoom in. A national average blends the places where buyers finally have leverage with the places where they never got it in the first place. And you don't buy locally on a national average. You buy one house, in one street, in one community, in one zip code. Real estate is, I'm sure you've heard it before, hyper-local. Like location, location, location. And those national numbers are lying to you by omission about this specific corner of South Florida. What is actually happening in Broward County? The newest official numbers from the Miami Association of Realtors just came out and they cover July. And these July numbers, they're not a buyer's market story. Broward single-family homes rose almost 8% year over year. Total home sales are up for the 5th consecutive month. Single-family dollar volume jumps 20.6% to $1 billion in 1 month. In the $1 million and up segment, sales are up 34% in a single year from 224 homes to 300. That's not a market that's limping along at 6.5% rates. That's wealth migration showing up from different parts of the country, all showing you what the data is doing in South Florida. And the median single-family price in Broward is now $650,000, up 4.84% from a year ago. And these numbers are really surprising to people who are not in tuned with the local market. So prices aren't spiking, and that surprises most people. They're grinding higher while sales accelerate, and that's the signature of a supply-constrained market, not a bubble. Bubbles spike. This is more of a squeeze. And for the long view, a Broward single-family home has appreciated 231% since 2011, from $196,000 to $650,000. That's what 15 years of people moving to South Florida and not enough homes on the market getting built looks like. Now the supply side, because this is where the trap gets expensive. Single-family inventory in Broward dropped about 25% in 1 year, from about 5,900 active listings down to 4,416. That puts single-family supply at roughly 4.3 months. And if you're new to that stat, months of supply typically means if it's a buyer's market, a seller's market, or if it's balanced. And at the same time, if no new homes came to the market, this is the duration in which the average home sale would take for all the supply to be sold. Now the supply side, because this is where the trap gets expensive. As we mentioned, Broward single-family homes would sell in a little over 4 months if no new inventory came to the market. Below 6, typically, sellers hold all the leverage, and we're below 6. And here's the split that nobody reports. For the same month, which was July, Broward condos sat at 10 months of supply. 10 months of supply is a buyer's market. 4 is the seller's market. Same county, same month, 2 completely different markets, of course, suited to 2 different property types. And one more national habit to leave out the door. In most of the country right now, you can grind on a seller because supply continues to increase behind them. In Broward single family, there is no stack. Walk into a Weston or Davie negotiation running the same general tactics that you would elsewhere, and you're going to end up losing the house every single time. I'm not saying that there are concessions that exist or there are ways to get around this. Really look at what's happening in the market, but we can talk about that in a second. And if you're waiting for a foreclosure wave to bail you out or waiting for the right time to buy, let's talk about those numbers. 0.4% of all Broward sales last month were distressed. Short sales and bank-owned properties combined, under 0.5%. The distressed supply market in single-family homes isn't here. And the buyers, they keep coming too. Out-of-state driver's license exchanges in Broward County rose another 6% over last year. And the top feeder markets, as we always know, are New York, California, and my favorite one lately, New Jersey. And I say that last week because I met somebody who actually came to New Jersey. They found me on YouTube, and we went to go see properties while they were in town, and we got them under contract, and we set up a relocation plan and put it in place for them over the next few months. That way, by the end of the year and into early 2027, Q1, everything for the relocation will be complete. And of course, they came from New Jersey. And what I've seen working with people relocating from the Northeast, they either want 4 to 5 bedrooms, preferably single family, 2-car garage, 3 baths, in a quiet community that is really accessible. And this exact profile seems to be, like I mentioned, what everybody is looking for in the middle of what headlines call a buyer's market. So hang on to that information because we'll go back to that in a few minutes. But global money still reads South Florida as a bargain. Per the Knight Frank report, $1 million buys 58 square meters of prime property in Miami. In Monaco, it buys you 16. In New York, 34. On the world stage, and we've been on the world stage for quite some time now, we're still a discount luxury market. Put it together, and Broward sellers are getting a median of 96% of the original list price. And single-family homes are going under contract in roughly 34 days. That's down from 43 days a year ago. So homes are still selling faster, not necessarily slower. Start to finish, this date to closing table, the country median runs 74 days. And one more force that's keeping supply tight is just under half of mortgaged homeowners in this country are still holding on to a rate less than 4%. They don't list without a real strategy, and that's the whole video by itself. And speaking of which, I actually did a video about what it takes to finally move or relocate if you have a 3 or 4% rate, and I'll link that video right here. Now let's go to my favorite level, granular. The Davie numbers I'm about to give you come from my very own tracker that I put together every single morning. And I use the information from the MLS, only for single family homes, not condos. And I've been putting it for over a year and a half, 18 months. As I mentioned before, Davie, as of the time of this recording, has roughly 165 active listings. Davie has roughly 110,000 residents, and that's the inventory bottleneck that nobody's really talking about in the headlines. And here's what those listings are doing. Week in and week out, this town of Davie closes about 9 single-family homes every single week. Averaged around 6 months of data, Davie's single-family home sales average $875,000, and the average sales price is about $1.1 million. Now, go back to the county number that I gave you a few moments ago. Broward's median single-family sales or sales price is $650,000. The middle of the Davie market runs roughly a third above the county it sits inside of. That's what I mean about zooming in, being granular, location, hyper-local real estate, hyper-local market. Across those same 6 months, Davie's single-family homes have been selling at an average of $417 per square foot, capturing about 96.5% of the list price, almost exactly what the county is doing. So hold these two numbers, $417 a foot and 96.5%. And I wish I was better at editing, but I got an editor to make this more visual. But they're about to mount. So going back to where I started, Long Lake Ranches, a gated community, acre plus lots, custom estates, beautiful. The exact product that out-of-state luxury buyers are looking to make the move to. Here's the last 12 months. 14 homes came to the market in there, 9 sold, 2 gave up and came off without ever trading. That means they didn't sell. 3 are still sitting there today. Now the 9 that sold together, they asked $22,169,000. There was one listing in there that was asking $2.3 million and closed at $1,910. $390,000 gone. That seller kept only 83 cents on the dollar. As a group, They captured about 93% of asking. The town overall captures 96.5%. But let's just sit with this part for a minute because two of them explain what's happening here. Both of these homes, they didn't sell the first time. They came off the market, they relisted, but watch what separated the two. The first one came out at just under $3 million. It didn't sell. It came back at $2,950, a $50,000 adjustment, and it closed at $2,950,000. The second one came out at $1,850,000. It didn't sell either. It came off and it came back at the exact $1,850,000 as it was originally listed. Not $1 of movement. And it closed at 1.7, a $150,000 haircut. Same community, same 12 months, both got a second chance at the market. The other one didn't make any changes and lost $150,000. That's going to be the whole video right there. Those 9 sales closed at an average of $457 a square foot. Now, some premium over the town's $450 a square foot is completely real. An acre lot and a custom build generally command more than a median Davie house, and I never argue otherwise. But 9 for 9 homes that sold below ask price isn't a premium. That's a correction happening to one seller at a time, and I'm going to go on to say that it's people not being realistic with what today's market is actually doing and setting the correct price expectations. And this isn't unique to Davie. National Days on Market Analysis shows the same curve everywhere. Sit 31 to 60 days and you tend to sell around 7% below ask. Push past 120 days and it's closer to 14% below asking price. So that goes with demand was never the problem here. There are buyers for all 9 of those homes because all 9 of those homes sold. Somebody obviously bought them, but it's the number the seller starts with is going to determine how long that it's going to sit on the market and how much that the seller keeps in the end. Sellers, they don't fail here because there are no buyers. Sellers typically fail because they price against the highest price that they heard 2 years ago during the pandemic instead of what's actually happening in today's market with the competition. And if you're wondering why buyers keep paying these numbers for Davie, specifically for the acreage, the equestrian lifestyle, the schools, the location that out-of-state families really love, I broke those details down in a video about the geography, and I'll link that video here, and I call it the map chop video. And let's talk about the Weston question, because half of the calls I get from YouTube and other callers looking to relocate is pretty much about Weston. Weston is one of the best executed master plan communities in all of the country. There's green everywhere, small rolling hills. They pick up, you won't find any litter. They take all my open house signs. Thank you, or sorry, City of Weston. I'm just trying to help sellers and buyers relocate to this wonderful place. And please stop taking my signs. Anyways, green everywhere, reservations, community parks, great schools. Look that up, please, and check out Weston when you do come to Broward County. But the whole town of Weston runs like it was designed on purpose, and that's because it was. But between Weston and Davie, it's 2 different bets with the same money. When somebody's looking to move to Davie, we also show them Weston. And of course, if they're looking to move to Weston, we also show them Davie. Weston is going to be more polished, has more consistency, structured communities, tighter lots, everything decided, maintained for you beautifully. Davie's bet is land, equestrian, cowboy town, right? You just heard of a gated community, multi-million dollars, and just a few minutes away, or even in some communities across the street, you can find homes for the median average sales price. Also in Davie, you can find a lot of communities that don't have an HOA at all. So here's my question. What do you actually think of all this? Let me know in the comments below. Because there are really 3 plays to this. If you're buying, stop fighting over the listing that hit the MLS on Thursday, which is the most popular day that listings go on the market. Target the homes that were sitting on the market 60 to 120 days because the homes and the price that they were launched at were mispriced. And here's some more data about what happens here after the first 100 days. Typically, listing contracts, they can range, of course, because everything is negotiable, but 6 months to 12 months. But the sellers tend to check out after the first 100 days. A seller at day 100 is typically exhausting, and they're staring at those carrying costs, and they're ready for a real conversation. And here's the move that most buyers never think of. And of course, consult with your real estate agent. But instead of throwing a lowball offer or something that may feel insulting, although it shouldn't be as emotional, it should be strictly analytical based on comparable sales, of course. But what is the reality of that actually happening? Rare. But let's be honest. If you were to offer or actually negotiate instead of an insulting price or a lowball offer, how about a rate buy down and some closing cost credits? A seller credit that buys your rate down often costs the seller less than the price cut that you were going for in the first place. And it's going to end up saving you more per month, most likely. Same savings without blowing up the deal from the start. So my suggestion would be, if you're serious in this market, go to your favorite IDX website, Zillow, Realtor.com, wherever your homes, wherever you view homes that are syndicated to. Pull every single family home that's listed over 60 days, rank them in order from days on market. You can also look at price reductions and start the conversation with that list. If you're selling, the market is going to pay you. However, the market is not going to overpay you. About 96.5% of asking is what disciplined pricing looks like right now in Davie. And we know sitting isn't free. There's taxes, insurance, upkeep on luxury estates, all those things. So be careful hiring the agent who buys your listing with an inflated number just to win the listing itself. And if you take one thing from this video, your launch window is everything. The discount clock starts around day 31, and every 30 days after costs you more money. It gets more expensive. Price it right the first week, not the third month. If you're a local owner sitting on a low rate, here's the wealth unlock. For NAR, data cited in the Miami Association of Realtors, the average homeowner in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale region or metro has gained roughly $300,000 in equity in the last 5 years. Meanwhile, look at the rest of the balance sheet. Blend the typical household's non-mortgage debt, and it's running around 11.4%. So the move that some families are making right now is sell the home you've outgrown, use that equity to erase every dollar of that 11% of debt, and buy the Davie home or the Weston home, whatever home you're looking for, but buy the home you actually want at today's rate. Your mortgage rate's going to go up, but your total monthly cost for non-mortgage debt is going to decrease. And the overall cost factor, they basically eliminate each other, right? It's not going to be so much more expensive to buy the house that you actually want versus staying in the one that you outgrown with the debt that you accumulated. And in Florida, we give you, or I don't want to say we, Florida gives us this wonderful benefit called homestead portability. When you move up, you can carry up to $500,000 of that accumulated difference between your market value and your assessed value into your new home. So your tax base doesn't reset from zero, but I also broke that down in that handcuff video also, and I'll link it again here just in case. And there's a wild card that I should have mentioned in the beginning of the video, but since you're here and you stayed this long, and if you're looking to relocate, this really affects buyers right now. Florida has a constitutional amendment for the ballot of this year, November, and it's a homestead exemption amendment. If it passes, which it needs to be at 60% to pass, the homestead exemption on everything except school taxes jumps $150 in 2027 and $250,000 in 2028. And the amendment directs the legislator to write a schedule to eliminate that tax entirely over time. Now here's the fine print. If you weren't or are not a Florida resident by the end of 2026, you don't get that exemption. You're going to get a smaller exemption first, $50,000, and you don't get the full amount until the 5th year you held the homestead. So if you're sitting in New York or New Jersey telling yourself you'll figure out Florida next year, understand that waiting now has a number attached to it. And one more piece, if you do own a second home, a vacation, or a rental property, the annual assessment cap on a non-homestead property drops from 10% to 5% starting in 2027. Now look, I'm not your CPA, I'm not your lender. Please run your exact numbers with them in your scenario so they can give you the best financial advice catered to your specific situation or scenario. But if you've never run that math, you might actually be closer to that estate or the home you want than you think. So here's the truth. The Davie single-family home market isn't crashing, but it's absolutely punishing bad information on both sides of the table. If I move to Davie or even Weston, but I don't have a Weston guide, although I do have a free relocation guide linked in the comments below or in the caption below that covers all cities here in West Broward County, and I would love for you to check that out. It covers costs for neighborhoods, relocation costs, and the numbers behind the town. And if you're earlier in the process, go watch the 7 things you need to know before moving to Davie, which I'll link that video here above as well. It's the perfect next step after today's numbers. My name is Anthony Spitaleri with Living in Davie. I hope you found some value out of this video. Feel free to subscribe because I'm dropping new videos every single week about what it's like living here in Davie, and also Weston because I love Weston as well, and the Western Broward section as a whole. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.